made public statements related to the investigation that were not true, including this assertion by Press Secretary Sarah Sanders about the firing of James Comey.
The rank and file of the FBI had lost confidence in their director.
What's your response to these rank and file FBI agents who disagree with your contention that they lost faith in Director Comey?
Look, we've heard from countless members of the FBI that say very different things.
Sanders told the special counsel team that claim, a claim she repeated several times, wasn't founded on anything, but was a slip of the tongue made in the heat of the moment.
President Trump has often boasted that he has one of the best memories of all time, but in his written answers to questions from the special counsel, he seems unable to remember much of anything, using variations of the phrases, "I do not recall," "I do not remember," "I have no recollection," more than 30 times, virtually, George, in answers to every question.
John Carl, thanks very much. Let's bring in the White House Press Secretary now, Sarah Sanders. Sarah, thank you for joining us this morning. You said last night that the president is completely exonerated, no collusion, no obstruction. But Robert Mueller very explicitly wrote that the report does not exonerate the president. And we just showed that quote earlier where he lays out that he could not clear the president of obstruction of justice.
He couldn't, but he left that decision up to the Attorney General, and he made it. There was no collusion, which is what the entire investigation was supposed to be about. It was to determine whether or not the president or anybody on his campaign had colluded with Russia. And not only did they determine that the president hadn't and that his campaign didn't, but they determined that no American had colluded with Russia. And I find it astonishing that the media isn't thrilled about the fact that no American colluded with the foreign government. It's almost, you watched over the last 24, 48 hours as members of the Democrat Party and liberal media, their liberal media allies, were almost sorrowful that something bad didn't happen.
Sarah, that was the first headline.
As a foreign agent for the Russian
Sarah,
government.
that was the first headline we had in our hellos right there, saying he didn't reach the conclusion there was a criminal conspiracy. But what the report also does is expose a culture of lying at the White House, the president lying, telling others to lie, and it calls your personal credibility into question as well. We showed that clip from your May 10th press conference where you said it was a slip of the tongue when you talked about countless FBI members, yet you repeated it twice the very next day. Here's one of them.
I mean, really? Like, really? So are we talking
between email, text messages? Absolutely,
50,
yes.
60, 70?
Look, we're not going to get into a numbers game.
That's not a slip of the tongue, Sarah. That's a deliberate false statement.
Actually, if you look at what I said the slip of the tongue was in using the word countless, but there were a number of FBI, both former and current, that agreed with the president's decision. And they've continued to speak out and say that and send notice to the White House of that agreement with the president's decision. James Comey was a disgraced leaker and used authorization to spy on the Trump campaign.
I've got to stop you there because you said something else to the special counsel.
George.
Sarah, hold on a second. The special counsel writes that those comments were not founded on anything. That's what you talked to the special counsel about when you were facing criminal penalties if you didn't tell the truth, but now you're trying to walk away from it. Why can't you acknowledge that what you said then was not true?
I said that the word I used, countless, and I also said if you look at what's in quotations for me, it's that. And it's that it was in the heat of the moment, meaning that it wasn't a scripted talking point. I'm sorry that I wasn't a robot like the Democrat Party that went out for 2.5 years and stated time and time again that there was definitely Russian collusion between the president and his campaign, that they had evidence to show it, and that the president and his team deserved to be in jail, that he shouldn't be in office, when really they were the ones that were creating the greatest scandal in the history of our country.
Sarah, what you did repeat time, Sarah, hold on a second. I let you speak. What you did repeat time and time again is that statement. You said that countless FBI officials came to you. You repeated it on separate days, on separate occasions, and this was not the only instance the special counsel reported. They also talked about one of the statements you made about the president's statement about the Trump Tower meeting, where you said the president clearly did not dictate that statement, yet the president's lawyers, according to the report, wrote that the president did indeed dictate that statement. So why did you tell the press that the president did not dictate that statement when he did?
If you look at the play-by-play account, he weighed in, which I said that he did. He relayed information he wanted included, which took place.
Dictate it.
I'm not denying that he had involvement in what the statement said. That was the information I was given at the time, and I stated it to the public. The big question here was whether or not the Trump campaign colluded with Russia. They didn't. The president didn't. This has been a 2.5-year witch hunt that has hurt our country, and it should never happen to another American president.
I agree.
It is disgraceful what has
Sarah,
taken place, and the amount of time and money and energy that has been spent on this.
You said the president did not dictate that statement after consulting with the president. So did he tell you that, and why did you repeat that to the country?
Again, as I stated before, he weighed in as anybody would do, and that seems consistent with what took place that day. He weighed in on the statement. I know that there were changes that were made ultimately, but the big question was whether or not
that's just not what happened. You said the president didn't dictate the statement. The president's lawyer said that he did dictate the statement. That's what they wrote. That is true, correct?
He hadn't dictated, but that he weighed in, George.
So the president's lawyers weren't telling the truth.
I'm sorry, I lost the last part of what you asked.
Well, then you're saying the president's lawyers didn't tell the truth when they wrote that the president dictated the statement.
I'm telling you the information I had was that the president had weighed in on the statement, which he clearly did.
Sarah Sanders, thanks for joining us this morning.
The big takeaway that I think that we saw yesterday and that we've seen over the last 2.5 years is that there wasn't collusion with Russia, and it should be a day that every American can celebrate and not be sorrowful like we've seen over the last 48 hours from the Democrats that are actually sad that the president didn't work as a foreign agent. And I hope that you'll push Adam Schiff and some of the others just as hard to produce the evidence that they say they've had over collusion and obstruction and all these other things that they've claimed over the last 2.5 years. And I hope that collectively as a country we can move on, because great things can happen under this president, just as they have over the last 2.5 years.
Sarah Sanders, thanks for your time this morning. Cecilia?
Okay, George, there's still more to come on Capitol Hill. House Democrats invited Robert Mueller to testify next month, and they are now demanding a fully unwritten